The night shift, nobody notices. Jackson Reed pushed his cleaning cart down the polished hallway of Memorial Grace Hospital. His navy blue uniform had seen better days. The fabric was worn thin at the elbows. His name tag hung crooked on his chest. 3rd floor, pediatric wing. Same route every night for 3 years. The fluorescent lights hummed their familiar song. Most people walked past him without a second glance. Invisible. That was fine with Jackson. Invisibility had become his greatest protection. A father's vigil in the staff break room. 9-year-old Lily sat at a corner table. Her backpack was covered in patches she had sewn herself. Math homework spread before her. She chewed her pencil, concentrating hard on fraction problems. A medical alert bracelet gleamed on her thin wrist. Jackson glanced through the doorway every few minutes. Just checking. Always checking. Lily looked up and waved. Her smile was bright despite everything. That smile kept him going through the darkest nights. The golden guests arrived. The elevator doors opened with a cheerful ding. Out stepped a group that screamed wealth and privilege. Designer suits, diamond jewelry catching the light. Expensive perfume trailing behind them like invisible clouds. At the center walked Pamela Whitmore. Her presence commanded attention. Silver hair styled perfectly. A power suit that cost more than Jackson made in 6 months. She owned half the hospital board. Everyone knew her name. Everyone wanted her approval. Judgment without knowledge. Dr. Trevor Ashford led the tour group. His white coat was pristine, not a wrinkle anywhere. He gestured broadly, showing off the renovated wing. Pamela's donation had paid for it. The group paused near where Jackson was mopping. Their conversation carried clearly in the quiet hallway. Jackson kept his head down. Keep working. Stay invisible. But their words cut through anyway. Plotted narrative tension through class conflict and character dignity. Need to continue building tension and showing the class divide. Keep the language simple and punchy. Show Jackson's restraint and dignity. Build up to the confrontation. The sting of careless words, charity cases everywhere these days, one board member said. Her tone dripped with disdain. Even the cleaning staff brings their children to work. No sense of professionalism. Pamela glanced at Lily through the break room window. Her expression showed clear disapproval. Hospital policy should address this. We maintain certain standards here. Dr. Ashford nodded eagerly. I completely agree, Mrs. Whitmore. The help should know their place. Jackson's grip tightened on the mop handle. His knuckles went white, but he said nothing. For Lily's sake? Always for Lily's sake. The breaking point approaches. Another donor joined the criticism. Look at that uniform. Completely unprofessional. How can we attract premium patients with staff like this? The group laughed. Not friendly laughter. The cruel kind that enjoys putting others down. Lily heard them. Jackson saw her small shoulders slump, saw the hurt flash across her face. That hurt turned into something cold and hard in his chest. But he swallowed it down. He had learned to swallow a lot over the past 3 years. A small voice of kindness, Nurse Rebecca Torres, walked past the group. She had worked the night shift for 15 years. Rebecca knew Jackson's story, knew what he had lost, what he had survived. She paused by his cart. Don't listen to them, Jackson, she whispered. You're worth 10 of those people. He managed a small smile. Thanks, Rebecca. Just doing my job. She squeezed his shoulder gently before moving on. Small acts of kindness mattered more than grand gestures. Jackson had learned that too. The emergency begins alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed along the corridor. Code blue in room 317. The tour group scattered. Pamela looked confused and frightened. That's where Tyler is, she gasped. My grandson. Medical staff rushed past. Dr. Ashford ran ahead. His earlier confidence evaporated into panic. Jackson's instincts kicked in immediately. Years of training screamed at him to move, to help, but he was just the janitor now. Nobody would listen. Nobody would let him near. Crisis in room 317. Through the open door, Jackson could see chaos. A small boy lay on the bed, monitors screaming, numbers dropping fast. Dr. Graham Foster, a young resident, stood frozen. His hand shook, complete terror on his face. "His airway's closing," Foster shouted. "Someone get Dr. Morrison, page her now." But Dr. Morrison was in surgery, 20 minutes away at minimum. The boy had maybe 3 minutes, maybe less. Jackson watched the numbers fall, watched the child's lips turn blue. His body moved on instinct toward the room. The guardian at the gate, Danny Park, the security guard, stepped in front of Jackson. "Sorry, buddy. Staff only in there. You need to stay back." Jackson tried to see past him. "That child needs help right now." Danny shook his head firmly. "Not your concern. Let the doctors handle it." Jackson's voice dropped lower. "More urgent. The doctors don't know what they're handling. That boy is going into anaphylactic shock. Secondary airway obstruction. He has minutes at most." Danny looked uncertain but held his ground. How would a janitor know that? The moment of choice, Pamela Whitmore pushed past both of them. She ran into the room. "Tyler, my baby." Her voice cracked with pure terror. The same woman who had mocked Jackson minutes earlier now faced every parent's nightmare. Dr. Foster was shaking so badly he could barely hold the equipment. "I can't do this," he whispered. "I've never done an emergency cricothyrotomy. I'll kill him." The machine screamed louder. Tyler's small body started convulsing. Time was a luxury they no longer had. The invisible man steps forward. Jackson pushed past Danny with surprising strength. He moved into the room with absolute purpose. Dr. Ashford whirled around. "What are you doing? Get out immediately." Jackson ignored him completely. His eyes locked on Tyler, on the failing equipment, on everything happening at once. "That child has less than 90 seconds, Jackson said. His voice carried complete authority now. Something had shifted in his tone, in his entire presence. The invisible janitor was gone. Someone else stood in his place. Revelation through action, Jackson's hands moved toward Tyler. Dr. Ashford grabbed his arm. "Security. Remove this man now." But Nurse Rebecca stepped between them. "Let him work, doctor." Her voice was steel. "Trust me on this." Jackson was already assessing. His hands moved over Tyler's throat. Feeling for landmarks? Counting ribs? Finding the exact spot needed? "Somebody give me a scalpel. Sterile, if possible. Any blade, if not." "Now." Dr. Foster stared in shock. "You can't be serious. You're a janitor." The hands that know Jackson pulled back his sleeve. Scars covered his forearm. Old surgical scars. Precise cuts that told a story of hundreds of procedures. But also burned scars? Rough and angry. More recent. Dr. Ashford's eyes widened. "Those marks." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I've seen those somewhere before." Jackson's hands hovered over Tyler's throat. Absolutely steady. No tremor, no hesitation. The hands of someone who had done this 1,000 times. "Clock is ticking," Jackson said quietly. "Make your choice. Let me save him or watch him die. Decide now." The weight of seconds, Pamela Whitmore grabbed Dr. Ashford's coat. Tears streamed down her face. "Please, let him try, please." The doctor nodded once. Sharp and quick. Jackson's hands moved with impossible precision. Every movement was exact, purposeful, beautiful in its efficiency. He made one small incision, found the space between cartilage rings, created an emergency airway in 45 seconds. Tyler's chest rose. Air flowed. The monitors stopped screaming. Numbers began climbing. Pink color returned to the boy's lips. The silence after the storm, the room fell absolutely silent. Everyone stared at Jackson, at his scarred hands, at the perfect procedure he had just performed. Dr. Foster looked like he might faint. "That was textbook perfect," he breathed. "Better than textbook. Who are you?" Jackson carefully secured the temporary airway, made sure Tyler was stable. Only then did he step back. His hands were shaking now, not from fear, from memory, from everything this moment had cost him to relive. "I'm Jackson Reed," he said simply. and I need to check on my daughter. The question everyone was thinking, Dar. Ashford found his voice finally. Reed. Jackson Reed. His face went pale. Recognition dawned like sunrise. No, that's impossible. He died. The hospital fire 3 years ago. You and your wife both died. Jackson looked down at his stained uniform, at his worn shoes, at the mop bucket still sitting in the hallway. My wife died, he said quietly. I just disappeared. Lily appeared in the doorway. Her small hand clutched her backpack strap. Daddy. Her voice was tiny. Worried. Is everything okay? Love above all things, Jackson turned away from the shocked crowd. He walked to his daughter, knelt down to her level. Everything is fine, sweetheart. Just helping someone who needed it. Lily looked past him at all the staring faces. Like you always do. She hugged him tight. Her medical alert bracelet pressed against his neck. Jackson held her close. This was why he endured the mockery. Why he stayed invisible. Why he pushed a mop instead of holding a scalpel. Everything he did was for this small girl in his arms. Behind them, Pamela Whitmore watched her grandson breathe steadily. The boy she had almost lost. The janitor she had mocked had saved Tyler's life. The weight of that realization was crushing. And Jackson Reed's story was just beginning to emerge from 3 years of shadows. The weight of recognition, the hospital corridor filled with whispers. Staff members gathered outside room 317. News traveled fast in a place like Memorial Grace. A janitor just performed emergency surgery. A janitor saved the billionaire's grandson. But the whispers carried another message too. Dr. Jackson read. The ghost surgeon. The legend who supposedly died. Lily tugged her father's hand. Daddy, why is everyone staring? Jackson squeezed her small fingers gently. Because sometimes the past catches up with us, sweetheart. Even when we try to outrun it. It's a photograph that changed everything, Dar. Ashford pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He scrolled through old files. Medical archives. Got photos from 5 years ago. Their International Pediatric Surgery Conference in Boston. Dr. Jackson Reed receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award, age 37, the youngest surgeon ever honored. Ashford held the phone up. Compared the photo to the man in the janitor uniform. Same eyes, same strong jawline, same hands. It's those unmistakable hands. You were nominated for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Ashford whispered.
Us.
You pioneered 3 surgical techniques still used worldwide. You were unstoppable. The night everything burned, Jackson's face went carefully blank. A wall came down behind his eyes. That man died 3 years ago. Pamela Whitmore stepped closer. Her earlier arrogance had crumbled. Tyler was sleeping peacefully now, stable, breathing on his own. What happened to you? Her voice actually sounded human now, vulnerable. Jackson looked at Lily. She knew parts of the story. The sanitized version, not the whole truth. Not the nightmares that still woke him screaming. It was a fire at County General Hospital, he said quietly. Late night. Electrical malfunction in the surgical wing. The choice that broke him, Nurse Rebecca joined them. She had been there that night, working the emergency department. Dr. Reed was performing surgery, she continued when Jackson fell silent. Complex procedure on a 3-year-old, then the alarms went off. Smoke filled the operating room. Jackson's scarred hands clenched into fists. The memory was too fresh, would always be too fresh. My wife Hannah worked in medical records. Her office was on the same floor. The fire spread fast. Too fast. His voice cracked. I had to choose. Finish the surgery and save the child, or leave the table and try to reach Hannah. The impossible decision. The hallway was completely silent now. Even the machines seemed too quiet. Dr. Foster spoke carefully. You saved the child. It was not a question. Jackson nodded slowly, completed the procedure, made sure she was stable. Then I ran for Hannah's office. His jaw tightened. But the ceiling collapsed. Structural failure. By the time firefighters cleared a path, she was gone. Lily pressed closer to her father's side. She knew Mommy was in heaven, knew there had been an accident. But hearing the details was different. Jackson wrapped his arm around her protectively. The scars that tell stories. Pamela's eyes dropped to Jackson's arms, the burn scars visible beneath his rolled sleeves. Jackson touched the worst scar, the one that wrapped from wrist to elbow. Third-degree burns on 40% of my body. Smoke inhalation. Spent 2 months in the IC. He looked directly at Pamela. When I woke up, I had lost everything. My wife. My medical license during the investigation. My entire identity. Dr. Ashford looked confused. Investigation? You were cleared? The hospital's insurance company issued a full report. The system that felled Jackson's laugh was bitter. 6 months later, after I had already lost custody hearings because I was unemployed, after medical boards questioned my judgment, after every hospital in the state refused to hire me, he gestured to his janitor uniform. This was the only job I could get. Night shift. Memorial Grace needed someone who could work around medical equipment without being frightened. Nurse Rebecca added softly. Jackson never told them he was a doctor. She said he had medical experience. They hired him to mop floors. Father's sacrifice. Lily looked up at her father with fierce pride. Daddy works here so I can use the clinic. Her small voice carried through the corridor. I have treatment twice a week. The staff clinic gives us discount rates. The medical alert bracelet suddenly made horrible sense. Jackson had given up everything, his career, his reputation, his identity, all to stay close to affordable medical care for his sick daughter. Pamela felt something crack inside her chest. Shame, deep and burning. What condition? She asked quietly. The battle he fights alone. Jackson hesitated. This was private, personal, but secrets seemed pointless now. Juvenile autoimmune disease, requires regular monitoring and medication. He touched Lily's shoulder gently. The staff clinic here charges based on income. My janitorial salary qualifies us for their assistance program. The math was brutal and obvious. Renowned surgeon reduced to pushing a mop, all to access. A clinic that charged $50 per visit instead of $500. Dr. Ashford looked physically ill. Jackson, I had no idea. If I'd known, it's the man who disappeared you weren't supposed to know, Jackson said firmly. Nobody was. I chose to disappear. Chose to become invisible. He looked around at all the staring faces. Do you know what happens when you're famous and everything falls apart? Reporters, questions, pity, everyone wanting a piece of your tragedy. His voice dropped. I wanted to grieve in peace. Wanted to focus on keeping my daughter healthy. Wanted to stop being Dr. Reed and just be Lily's father. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. They understood, finally understood, the moment truth breaks free. Dr. Foster stepped forward, young, idealistic, visibly moved. You still save Tyler tonight? Still put yourself at risk? Jackson shrugged. That's what doctors do, even former ones. Pamela's perfectly composed mask finally cracked completely. Tears rolled down her carefully made-up face. I called you charity, called your daughter unprofessional. Said you had no place here. Her voice broke. You saved my grandson's life while I was insulting yours. The silence that followed was heavy, profound, full of all the words people wish they could take back. The question of Redemption Hospital Administrator Harold Jensen pushed through the crowd. He had been monitoring the situation from his office. Dr. Reed. He used the title deliberately. Memorial Grace owes you a tremendous debt. Jackson started to protest, but Jensen held up a hand. You performed an emergency medical procedure, saved a child's life, used skills that should never have been wasted mopping floors. He glanced at Dr. Ashford. We need to discuss reinstating your credentials. Jackson's eyes widened. Hope flickered there. Dangerous hope. My license was suspended pending investigation. The truth that sets free investigation that cleared you completely, Jensen said firmly. I pulled the files while you were stabilizing the patient. Every medical board in the country recognized your actions that night were heroic. The suspension was administrative. Temporary. He pulled out a tablet. Your medical license was automatically reinstated 8 months after the fire. Never checked, never knew. The words hit Jackson like a physical blow. 2.5 years. He had spent 2.5 years invisible. Broken. Believing he could never practice medicine again. All because he never checked, never thought to look. The hands that healed your, Ashford spoke quietly, humbled. Jackson, I was wrong, profoundly wrong about you, about what matters in medicine. He gestured to the room where Tyler slept. You have gifts that shouldn't be hidden, skills that save lives. Jackson looked at his scarred hands, the hands that had held scalpels, that had saved hundreds of children, that now held mops and cleaning supplies. These hands, remember, he said softly. Even when I tried to forget. Lily squeezed his fingers. Your hands are perfect, Daddy. They take care of people. An offer he never expected. Pamela stepped forward. She had composed herself. But something fundamental had changed in her expression. Dr. Reed, I want to make this right. Jackson started to speak, but she continued. Not with money, with opportunity. She looked at Jensen. Memorial Grace is building a new pediatric surgical wing. We need a director, someone brilliant, someone who understands what it means to fight for a child's life. The implications crashed over Jackson. A position. A real position. Not charity. Not pity. A job based on merit. The fear of rising again, I don't know, Jackson said slowly. I've been gone so long, medicine has advanced. New techniques, new protocols. Dr. Foster practically vibrated with excitement. Then we'll catch you up. Training, observation, whatever you need. He looked at Jackson with open admiration. What you did tonight wasn't luck, wasn't old knowledge. It was pure instinct. Muscle memory. The kind of skill that never dies. Jackson's hand went to his chest, to his heart beating too fast. After 3 years of hiding, could he really step back into the light? The daughter who believes Lee tugged her father's sleeve. Daddy, remember what Mommy used to say? Jackson knelt down to her level. What's that, sweetheart? She touched his face gently. The way children do when they need you to really listen. She said your hands were made for healing, that you had a gift from God. Tears filled Jackson's eyes. You were only 6 when she died. You remember that? Lily nodded seriously. I remember lots of things. And Mommy would want you to use your gift. The simple faith of a 9-year-old child. The trust that her father could do anything. The weight of second chances. Jackson stood slowly, looked around at all the faces watching him. Waiting. Pamela with her desperate hope. Dr. Ashford with his newfound respect. Nurse Rebecca with her proud smile. Dr. Foster with his eager enthusiasm. Jensen with his practical offer, and Lily, always Lily, the reason for everything. I need time, Jackson said finally. Time to think, to process, to understand what this means. Jensen nodded. Take whatever time you need. But Jackson? Those scrubs would look better on you than that uniform. The shift in the universe, the crowd began to disperse slowly. Whispers turned to excited conversations. The janitor was really a legendary surgeon. The quiet man they had ignored was secretly brilliant. Jackson felt the weight of eyes following him differently now. Not with dismissal. With awe. With respect. He was not sure which made him more uncomfortable. Lily yawned widely. Can we go home now, Daddy? I'm tired, Jackson smiled. His first real smile in years. Yeah, sweetheart. Let's go home. The walk-through changed halls. They walked through the hospital corridors together. Father and daughter. Hand in hand, but everything looked different now. The floors Jackson had mopped 1,000 times. The walls he had scrubbed. The windows he had cleaned. All of it transformed by truth, by revelation, by the understanding that invisible people carry entire worlds inside them. At the exit, Rebecca caught up to them. Jackson, wait. She pressed something into his hand. A business card. My brother runs a rehab program for doctors returning to practice. He helped me after my accident. She smiled warmly. Call him. You deserve this second chance. The promise of tomorrow outside. The night air was cool and clean. Lily skipped ahead toward their old car. Jackson looked back at Memorial Grace Hospital, the building where he had hidden for 3 years, where he had become invisible, where tonight he had been seen again. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dr. Reed, this is Pamela Whitmore. Tyler is awake. He wants to thank the angel who saved him. Please come by when you can. And thank you for everything, including the lesson in humility I desperately needed. The man who came back, Jackson slipped the phone into his pocket, watched Lily climb into the car. Her medical alert bracelet caught the streetlight. Everything he did was for her, had always been for her. But maybe, just maybe, he could be both. Lily's father and a surgeon. A protector and a healer. The man who mopped floors and the man who saved lives. Hannah would have liked that. Would have told him to stop hiding, to stop running from his gift. Ready, Daddy? Lily called. Jackson smiled. Really smiled. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm ready. The morning after everything changed, Jackson barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Tyler's blue lips. Felt the scalpel in his hand. Heard the monitor screaming. But he also heard something else. Hannah's voice, soft and warm. You have a gift, Jackson. Don't waste it. At dawn, he made breakfast for Lily, pancakes shaped like hearts. Their weekend tradition. She ate quietly, watching him with knowing eyes. You're going back, aren't you? Jackson flipped another pancake. Back where? Lily smiled. Back to being a real doctor, not just in your heart. The call that started it, his phone rang at 7 a.m. Jensen's name appeared on the screen. Jackson answered cautiously. Dr. Reed, I hope I'm not calling too early. The administrator's voice carried urgency. Tyler Whitmore is asking for you. His family wants to meet properly. Jackson glanced at Lily. She nodded encouragement. I can be there in an hour. Jensen paused. Jackson, wear whatever makes you comfortable. You've earned the right to choose. The janitor uniform hung in the closet, untouched. Jackson reached for jeans and a simple button-down instead. The clothes of a man between worlds. The hospital transformed. Walking into Memorial Grace felt surreal. Staff members who had ignored him for years now stopped to stare, to whisper, to nod with respect. The security desk guard stood when Jackson approached. Dr. Reed, sir. Mr. Jensen asked me to escort you directly to the executive wing. Executive wing. Where board members met. Where decisions about the hospital's future were made. Jackson had never been there. Not in 3 years. Not even when he was famous. Danny Park waited by the elevator. Doc, I owe you an apology. I should have listened last night. Jackson shook his hand. You were doing your job. No apology needed. The room where futures are decided, the executive conference room, was impressive. Floor 2 ceiling windows overlooked the city. A massive table dominated the space. Seated around it were people Jackson recognized from news articles and medical journals. Pamela Whitmore at the head. Jensen to her right, Dr. Ashford looking uncomfortable. 3 other board members Jackson had never met. And Tyler, the 6-year-old boy, sat in a chair too big for him. A bandage on his throat, but his eyes were bright and alive. When Jackson entered, Tyler's face lit up. You're the angel. Grandma said you saved me. The gratitude of innocence. Jackson knelt beside Tyler's chair. I level with the child. I'm not an angel. Just someone who knew how to help. Tyler touched the bandage carefully. Did it hurt? Jackson considered lying. Decided on truth. Probably. But you were very brave. And now you're healing. Tyler's small hand reached out, touched the scars on Jackson's forearm. You got hurt too. Were you brave? The question hit harder than expected. I tried to be. Tyler nodded seriously. Then we match. Brave people who got hurt, but got better. The proposal that changed everything. Pamela cleared her throat gently. Dr. Reed, please sit. Jackson took a seat across from her. Felt like a job interview. Felt like a trial. Felt like both. I spent last night reading everything about you, Pamela began. Your published research. Your surgical innovations. Your teaching history. She slid a folder across the table. You trained 43 surgeons who are now leading departments worldwide. You pioneered the Reed technique for infant cardiac repair. You saved over 3,000 children's lives in 15 years of practice. The weight of legacy. Jackson opened the folder. Inside were articles, awards, letters from parents whose children he had saved, photos from conferences. His entire career documented and preserved. I also read about the fire, Pamela continued softly. About your wife, Hannah? About the investigation? About how you disappeared? She leaned forward. Dr. Reed, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you truth. When I mocked you last night, I was revealing my own emptiness. My belief that wealth equals worth. You proved how wrong I was. The offer of redemption Jensen took over. Memorial Grace is expanding. The new pediatric surgical wing will serve underprivileged children from across the state. He pulled up blueprints on the screen behind him. 6 operating theaters, 12 recovery rooms, the most advanced equipment available. He looked directly at Jackson. We want you to direct it. Build the program from the ground up. Train the next generation of pediatric surgeons. Make this place what you always dreamed a children's hospital could be. The hesitation of the wounded Jackson stared at the blueprints. It was perfect. Everything he would have designed himself. State-of-the-art facilities. Space for families. Natural light in every room. This is incredible, he said slowly. But I've been out of practice for 3 years. Medicine has evolved. I'm rusty. Dr. Ashford spoke up. Humble now. Genuine. We have a proposal for that. 6-month supervised practice. Work alongside our current team. Relearn. Refresh. We'll cover all costs for any additional certifications or training you need. Question of worth. One of the board members, Jackson, did not recognize spoke. Dr. Reed, I'm Patricia Langford. I chair the hospital's ethics committee. She smiled warmly. What you did last night wasn't just skilled. It was compassionate. You could have walked away. Protected yourself from liability, from exposure. Instead, you chose to help. She gestured to the folder. Everything we've read about you suggests you've always chosen to help, even when it cost you everything. The memory of Love Jackson's throat tightened. My wife used to say that healing is holy, that every life matters. Rich or poor, famous or forgotten. He looked at Tyler. At this small boy who almost died because adults were too proud to accept help from a janitor. I became invisible to escape pain, to avoid questions, to just survive. His voice strengthened. But Hannah wouldn't want me to just survive. She'd want me to live, to use what I know to help others. The daughter's wisdom. The conference room door opened. Lily walked in, escorted by Nurse Rebecca. Sorry to interrupt, Rebecca said, but Lily insisted she needed to be here. Lily walked straight to her father, climbed into his lap unself-consciously, looked around at all the important people. My daddy is the best doctor in the whole world, she announced. He's just been sleeping. But now he's awake again. The simple declaration from a 9-year-old carried more weight than any credential or reference. The choice that defines Jackson held his daughter close. Smelled her strawberry shampoo. Felt her small heart beat against his chest. This was why everything mattered. Why every choice led to this moment. If I do this, he said carefully, I have conditions. Amala nodded. Name them. Jackson's voice was steady, certain. First, the staff clinic program expands. Every employee gets access to affordable health care. Janitors, cafeteria workers, everyone. Murmurs of approval around the table. Second, we create a fund for families who can't afford treatment. Hannah's Hope Foundation. In my wife's memory, it's the terms of a new beginning. Third, Jackson continued, I want Dr. Foster on my team. He froze last night, but he was honest about his limitations. That takes courage. I can teach someone like that. Dr. Foster, standing by the door, looked shocked, grateful. Fourth, we partner with medical schools. Offer scholarships to students from underprivileged backgrounds. Kids who know what it means to struggle. Pamela was writing quickly. Done. All of it. Anything else? The truth of identity. Jackson looked at his scarred hands. The hands that remembered. One more thing. I'm not ghost surgeon or legend or any dramatic title. I'm just Jackson Reed. A father who happens to be good at fixing broken things inside small bodies. He met Pamela's eyes. I'll need time off for Lily's treatments. I'll need flexibility when she's sick. Being her father comes first. Always. The room fell silent. Then Pamela smiled. Genuinely smiled. Dr. Reed, a director who understands that family comes first, is exactly who we need. The return to purpose Jensen pulled out a contract. This outlines everything we discussed. Starting salary, benefits, timeline for your return to full practice. Take time to review it. Have a lawyer look at it if you want. Jackson scanned the pages. The salary was fair. The terms generous. The respect evident in every clause. I don't need a lawyer. I need a pen, he signed on the final page. Jackson Reed, MD, Director of Pediatric Surgery. The title felt foreign. Felt right. Felt like coming home after a long exile. The celebration of new life. Tyler climbed out of his chair and hugged. Does this mean you'll be my doctor? Jackson lifted the boy carefully. If you want me to be. Tyler nodded vigorously. I do, because you're brave. And brave people should stick together. Lily giggled. I told you Daddy was the best. The two children smiled at each other. Connected by medical alerts and scars and the adults who loved them enough to fight, Pamela wiped her eyes. My grandson is alive because you chose compassion over bitterness. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that gift. The ripple of changeover, the next week's news spread. Former colleagues reached out. Medical journals requested interviews. But Jackson kept his focus small, deliberate. He spent mornings in observation, watching current surgeons work, afternoons in study, learning new techniques and technologies. Evenings with Lily, homework and dinner and bedtime stories. Normal life, beautiful life. Dr. Foster became his shadow. Eager to learn, hungry for knowledge. Why did you choose me? Foster asked one day. Jackson smiled. Because you knew your limits. That's the first sign of a great surgeon. The foundation that honors Love Hannah's Hope Foundation launched 3 months later. The ceremony was simple. A plaque in the hospital lobby. Hannah Reed's photo. Her warm smile preserved forever. My wife believed healing was holy, Jackson told the gathered crowd. She believed every child deserved a chance at life. This foundation continues her work. Lily stood beside him, placed flowers beneath her mother's picture. Hi, Mommy. Daddy is helping kids again, just like you wanted. The room was silent except for the sound of tissues being pulled from pockets. The first day of Forever 6. Months after that night in room 317, Jackson put on surgical scrubs for the first time in 3 years. The fabric felt familiar, right? Like putting on his own skin. Lily helped him tie the strings. You look like a real doctor again, Daddy. Daddy, he kissed her forehead. I never stopped being a doctor, sweetheart. I just forgot for a while. His first surgery was a success. A 7-year-old boy with a congenital heart defect. The same kind of surgery Jackson had pioneered years ago. His hands remembered, knew exactly what to do. The student who becomes DR? Foster assisted. Hands steady now, confident. Afterward, in the scrub room, he looked at Jackson with awe. That was poetry. The way you moved. The precision. Jackson dried his hands. You'll get there. Just keep learning. Keep caring, Foster nodded. Why did you come back? Really? Jackson thought about it. About Lily. About Hannah. About Tyler and all the children waiting, because hiding is slow death. And I chose life. The circle completes a year later. Jackson stood in the completed pediatric surgical wing. Hannah's Hope Wing, the sign read. Natural light flooded the corridors. Art covered the walls. Colorful. Joyful. The opposite of fear. Children's laughter echoed from the playroom. Parents sat in comfortable chairs, looking less afraid. This was healing space. This was what Hannah had dreamed. Pamela found him there. A year ago, I would have walked past you without seeing, she said quietly. Thank you for making me look. Really look. The legacy of small hands. Lily ran down the corridor. Nearly 10 now, taller, stronger. Her treatments were working. Stability at last. She carried a box of paper cranes. Her latest hobby. Daddy, can I give these to the kids? Jackson smiled. Of course, sweetheart. Distributed them carefully, one to each child in the ward. These are for luck, she told them seriously. They kept my daddy safe. Now they'll keep you safe too. The children held them gently. Small paper birds carrying hope in folded wings. The man who rose again that evening. Jackson stood at Hannah's grave. The first time in months, I did it, he told the headstone. I came back. Not because I'm brave, because Lily believed I could. Because you taught me that gifts aren't meant to be buried. The wind rustled through trees, carried the scent of flowers. Somewhere he imagined Hannah smiling, proud, at peace. I love you, he whispered. I'll always love you. But I'm living again. Really living. The truth we all need. Jackson drove home through evening traffic. His phone buzzed with messages. A surgery scheduled for tomorrow. A consultation request. A teaching opportunity at the university. His calendar was full. His purpose restored. But the most important thing waited at home. Lily at the kitchen table. Homework spread out. She looked up when he entered. How's your day, Daddy? He sat beside her. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. How was yours? She showed him her math test. A plus at the top. I got them all right. Pride shone in her eyes. The lesson the world learned. The story of the janitor who was really a surgeon spread far beyond Memorial Grace Hospital. News articles, documentaries, speaking invitations. But Jackson turned most of them down. Accepted only those that could make real change. Don't judge people by their uniforms, he told one interviewer. Everyone carries invisible worlds inside them. The janitor might be a surgeon. The waitress might be a poet. The security guard might be a hero. We're all more than what we appear. The morning light returns to years after that night in room 317. Jackson woke early. Watched sunrise through bedroom windows. Lily still asleep in her room. His surgical schedule started at 7. 3 procedures. All children who needed his particular skills. He touched the scars on his arms. The burn marks that had tried to destroy him. They were just part of his story now. Not the whole story. Just chapters. Painful chapters that led to better ones. The gift that keeps giving in his office at the hospital. Jackson kept 3 things on his desk. A photo of Hannah, a paper crane from Lily, and his old janitor name tag. The name tag reminded him that worth isn't determined by titles. That healing happens in quiet moments. That sometimes you have to disappear to find yourself again. Dr. Forster knocked on the door. We're ready for you, Dr. Reed. Jackson stood. Put on his surgical cap. Let's go save some lives.